Welcome back to another episode of Low Power Mode. Let's start the episode.
I got an excess of black bile, high irascibility, contemplating checking myself into facility, mental ability clearly affected,
Deep in the dumps, down and dejected.
I've been in low power mode. In low power mode. Been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear. I've been in low. I've been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear.
You know, I think Low Power Mode is still one of my favorite songs and one of my best songs. And yeah, it's funny because I keep continuing to make music, of course. And but it's like, damn, wow, sometimes you're just so raw. Anyway, welcome back. There's been a lot going on. It's Emmy season. So, or I guess it just ended because the Emmy Awards were just happening here in the States. And I didn't watch the Emmys. I watched the highlights, aka I watched all the black people who won. I watched mostly like the black women. That's who I focused on in my own personal recap of the Emmys. Oh my God, enemies of the Emmys. So, music. You know, the Low Power Mode podcast is a big fan of Abbott Elementary and Quinta Brunson. And so it was amazing that Emmys were won for the show Abbott Elementary. But one in particular that stood out was Cheryl Lee Ralph, this incredible actress. She was in Dreamgirls back in the day. Her mentor was Sidney Poitier, but she struggled a lot in the industry, finding her shine and her moment, being recognized. She hasn't struggled. She's done an amazing job, but she's hasn't been recognized in this way before. And she won an Emmy. She looked absolutely shocked and stunned walking up there. And she also looked, I think she's in her 60s. She looked fantastic, like stunningly gorgeous, classy. She had this like studded ponytail braid, showing some leg. I was like, yes, mama. Cheryl Lee Ralph took the Emmy home for like Best Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series, I think. And she gets up to the mic, composes herself, and then goes, I am an endangered species, and just takes us to church with a song I had never heard before. And it was very funny. I went to YouTube and listened to the song, and underneath the comments there were like probably like 100 comments that were like, I'm here because of Cheryl Lee Ralph, and this song's amazing, and congrats to her. And it was so funny. It's so funny how culture and media works these days. But yeah. So I checked out this song. I downloaded it, and wow, what a gem. So the lyrics, and this is what Cheryl Lee, like this isn't all of the lyrics. I'll post them in the show notes, but some of the lyrics, the first few lyrics are, I am an endangered species, but I sing no victim song. I am a woman, I am an artist. I know where my voice belongs. Okay, this just took me out. It took me out because it's pretty simple, but it's so powerful. It's saying that if you are living at the intersection of being a woman, identifying as a woman or femme, we can say, and being an artist, that you are an endangered species, meaning one who is very rare, and who there used to be many, many, many of and no longer are. And so I was like, wow, that makes me feel special. And yeah, it was like, wow, such a beautiful moment of Black womanhood to see this woman in her 60s who's been at it in the game for years and years and decades, getting her shine, and also paying homage to another Black woman artist, without even trying. Of course, Cheryl Lee Ralph went on to thank, oh my gosh, her speech was amazing. She was like, something about like not everybody has, or I'm lucky because I have a Quinta Brunson in my corner. I have a husband like mine in my corner. I don't know, the way she delivered this speech, it was so powerful. So not only did I become aware of this fantastic song that's an old song, but was there was new life breathed breathed into it. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just a huge moment right now for Black women in the States and abroad. Like, I think there's like this ownership and agency and like really stepping into it. So for me, this song is my new little theme song, and stepping into your rarity, I think is like, so I'm already about that, but I just love how it was presented through this song. So I have it linked here on the Patreon. Definitely check it out. It's fantastic. And congrats to Cheryl Lee Ralph and the whole cast, Quinta Brunson, of course, and the whole cast of Abbott Elementary. You deserve every award. I'm not going to talk, side note, I'm not going to talk about, because this is not like a gossipy podcast, I'm not going to talk about I'm not going to talk much about this weird kind of comedy gag skit thing that Will Arnett and Jimmy Kimmel did as Quinta was accepting her award. I saw Quinta on Jimmy Kimmel's show later on, and he apologized, and his voice was kind of shaky, and I was like, that's the redemption that I need. She didn't seem to be that bothered by it, but it had like Black Twitter up in flames. And the optics now, I love how we're at this place in society where, like, if there's a visual of white people kind of fucking with like Black femmes, Black women, there's gonna be some what's the word? Some noise, let's say. So I love how this noise creates pressure and creates apologies, and I love to see a white man apologize to a Black woman. So I'm gonna leave that there, and we're gonna move on to TV. Television. All right, so moving on to TV. All right, so continuing with our distinguished Black women theme, Queen Latifah is having a moment. Okay, we all know that this queen has been a queen since she's 17. Started out in the rap game, then had the TV show Living Single, which we talked about, and now we're coming into season 3 of her show, The Equalizer. Now, The Equalizer was a franchise that has traditionally been carried by Denzel Washington. I believe there was like a TV show where he was the Equalizer, and then there were like 2 movies, I think. Excuse me. So Denzel Washington has been the face of the franchise The Equalizer. However, it's 2022. We all love Denzel Washington, but I think it was time for something fresh, something new, something different. And so Queen Latifah and her partner, Shakim Compare of Flavor Unit, like this is like, from back in the day, like they have been ride or die this whole entire time. And they were like, let's try Queen Latifah out as the Equalizer. And so they executive produced the show. There's some of the executive producers, and she stars in the show. And when I tell you she is such a boss, and this role really allows her to shine as the boss that she is. This show is brilliant. And I don't normally love the aesthetic of like cable TV shows. Like, okay, this show is on the CBS network, for instance, and CBS, they also have like SEAL Team and like, I don't know, a bunch of other shows that are very, I don't know, I like artsy shit, right? And like on network TV, there's almost like this standard that has to be met when it comes to like lighting and camera type and position and stuff like that. So something about the aesthetic turns me off sometimes. And another thing is like we've had so many cop shows, We've had shows in movies and things related to like, ex FBI agent or whatever. It's not always within the institution, but having one of these shows led by a Black woman, not just a Black woman, but Queen Latifah, is just, it's almost like this is the way the world should be. And she said this in an interview. I'll post this interview in the notes. She said, the world is so, I think she said askew or something like that right now, and we wanted the show to kind of correct things almost, and like be like, okay, we know it's fucked up, but like this is how we want it to be. And it really comes through, and it's like an average TV show where it hits on a lot of different topics and stuff, but the way that it happens like is different because of the nature of who she is. Queen Latifah she's everything and more. She's not just these things. But if we're talking about identities, she is Black, she is a woman, she is a queer woman, she is a lesbian. These identities, they make you who you are. Of course, your parents and your nurturing and like where you grew up and all these things have so much to do with it too. But I believe that she has sensitivity around humanity in accordance to some of her intersections. All this to say that the show is brilliant because it is that kind of average, typical cop or ex-cop who is, trying to save people. I'm sorry, my phone is on ring because I'm waiting for a call from the hospital. So that's why you just maybe heard my phone. But it really is a different show because she is who she is. So I'm going to use a particular episode as an example to kind of let you in on how nuanced some of the elements are in The Equalizer. So there's an episode called the Room Where It Happens, and also it's not just Queen Latifah. We have oh God, I don't know everybody's name. I'm sorry. we have now I'm forgetting everybody. No. Chris Noth is the like kind of main white guy on it, and he is a minority, being like a main character white guy, so I love that. Many of the other characters in the show are black or Latin descent, or of Muslim descent, or it's really cool how they make such an effort, even in like these characters who only come into the scene once. They're gonna often be people of color or women of color. Like they really do a good job of that, I've noticed. But so the setting is that Queen Latifah is ex-CIA, and she has a house in, let's say, Queens, like an area of New York where it's easy for her to get into the city, but she lives like on a street where there's like single family homes and stuff. And so she has I think her daughter's like 16 years old when the series starts, and then she lives with her aunt, her father's sister, Aunt Vi, played by Lorraine Toussaint. Both of these, sorry, there's my phone again. Both of these actors, Lorraine Toussaint and Laya, let me not fuck this up, De Leon Hayes, I believe, are amazing. They are both so incredible in their roles. And what's happening is essentially, okay, so Queen Latifah's character is Robin McCall. And apparently before it was like Robert McCall, so they kind of kept this like Equalizer franchise thing going. And so Robin, she has a savior complex for sure. And she is addicted to, this is coming off as harsh, but she's addicted to her work. She's really bad at setting boundaries at first, and she just lies to her aunt and her daughter about what she does. So it creates it makes for an interesting at-home dynamic. There's a lot of love, but there's not full trust. So it's interesting. And oh my God, I'm telling you, like both Lorraine Toussaint, incredible. Laya De Leon Hayes, I'm like, this girl, she is killing it on this show. She's just getting started. So that's her home life. Then she's got the only white guy, Chris Noth. He plays the character Bishop. He's also ex-CIA, but still like looped in or linked into the company, as they say. And then there's a cop, Marcus Dante, played by, is he Tory Kittles? I don't know who Tory Kittles is in the credits, but maybe that's him. I don't know. But yeah, he plays this cop who is in the police force and has a father who was a legendary cop, and then like at the very end got taken down for being dirty. And so he has a reputation to hold up, and to be like a good, quote unquote, like clean, quote unquote, cop. And then she's got her like friends in behind the scenes helping her out with shit. So she's got her friend Mel, who I believe is Liza Lapiro. And then Harry, who's played by, I think his name is Adam Goldberg. So it's great. Harry is like the nerdy guy. He was in intelligence and like computer intelligence and stuff until he spoke his truth and like divulged some information that he shouldn't have, because it was like the quote unquote right thing to do. And so he got like blacklisted. He basically had to quote unquote die. And so it's as if he doesn't exist, but he lives down in this lair and doesn't really go out into the world very much. And then his partner, Mel, she runs the bar above this like space where Harry is, this like kind of lair, digital lair. And so And Mel was also ex-CIA, I think, and she was like a sniper. So she's really good at shooting, and she never like shoots unnecessarily. She's just like very restrained and good at her job. And so that's kind of the setup. Those are the characters. That's the world. We're in New York City. And this episode, I think it's called The Room Where It Happens. I know I should have all these details written down, but the episode is about, it's loosely about sexual assault, and specifically about a girl who works at a political campaign for this woman who is helped out by this man. And this girl is like trying to injure herself or take her life, and they're like, what's going on? And she won't say what. And it turns out that she's been raped by they called him the Queen Maker in the episode. So this man who is a kind of presents as a feminist, but truly is raping the women who he's helping. So the episode is done really, really well, because we can see, okay, so it'll be like there's a situation outside, or like she gets a phone call or something, and then it's like, okay, this is who we're helping. And so at first, when they're getting into this girl's case, it's kind of the normal, like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to try this. I'm going to go ask her about this, da da da. Then it becomes clear that they find out enough information so that they realize, okay, this girl has been abused. Not only that, but the political candidate, like the woman who's running for office, also has been raped by this guy who continues to help her every day. And so once this information comes to light, Mel, you can tell by the way she's standing up for the girl in the situation. You can tell that she has also been raped. And so this kind of is a through line in the episode next to the actual kind of solving of the crime. You know, like the main gaze, or the main view that it would be if the character was like a cis male character, right? It would be like, okay, this is the situation. Oh, these women were raped. Okay, we gotta like lock up or avenge gotta figure this out. But no, we get like a personal narrative underneath this action thriller episode, and so then they at some point they appeal to the political candidate who's running and who was raped, and they say, the younger girl tells her story to the political candidate, and at first she's not budging, she's not engaging, she's not divulging what she's had to keep a secret her entire life. And then she goes into the interview, and then she has a change in her thinking, and she's like, okay, I'm going to stand up because there's been so many others, and they essentially hand the evidence over to her. So in this interview, she ends up saying that she had been abused by this guy, and that he was abusing others. And it was really powerful, because she had a name, and because she was a political candidate, and like she already had people on her side, they would believe her. Whereas they throughout the episode, they talked to some of the other women who this man had raped, and they didn't want to talk about it because they knew if they spoke up that they would be chastised and bullied, and no one would believe them, and no one would take their side. So the nuances in this episode when it comes to sexual assault and rape, and the difficulties, and it was just really well done. And then so at the end of the episode, they end up, successfully like arresting this guy. And and Mel says, they're having a drink at the bar, and Mel is like, I wish they had caught my guy. And she kind of but she's kind of like, it's okay. It's like, I'm okay. Um and then Harry tells Robin that he fucks with the guy's credit, and that he, stole an identity because he's like a computer whiz. He can like kind of mess with the guy. So that's cute. And then Harry like gets up and goes over to Mel and hugs her. And there's another point in the episode where she alludes to that she has been sexually assaulted, and he's there for her. And it's like really powerful to see this in this type of show, because not only do we normally not see that sort of support, but it would never be like, there would never be a scene in this type of show to show that type of support, like to show that Mel had a situation that was a trauma and had shared with Harry, and Harry was like, okay, I'm going to do what I do, to get back at this guy, but also like, I'm here for you. I'm just here to support you. And I thought that was so powerful and so beautiful. And another point in the episode, Mel is sitting in the car with the girl, I think her name's Maya, and in the episode, and she says, because Maya's like, I don't know how, like, I'm going to get back to normal, something like this. And Mel is like, remember, this is like one page in a chapter of like the book that is you. This does not define you. This is one experience that you've had, and I think that that's true of any trauma that we experience. It's like, we can't let it define us. We always have to be like, come to terms and accept this is something that happened to me, and move on from it. Not move on, because it's not like you can necessarily move on, but to not let it define you. I think it's like a mindset, and it's very powerful. I'm not saying it's easy to do or to get there, but I felt like, given my own experiences with sexual assault, like watching this episode was like, wow, this is fantastic. And this is something that if I had kids, like if I had teenage girls, I would want them to see that. I would want them to see this and see that it's that if something like this happens to you, that that it's going to be hard and it's going to be difficult, but you're going to survive. And you see these survivors, you see these like women who it's happened to in this show, one who we know well as the character, and we see that it doesn't define her. We see that it doesn't define Mel. And so, these types of themes, this type of content, of course it comes from the writers, but I think it comes from Queen Latifah's leadership as well. It comes from a feminine intuition, or like a feminine perspective, and a feminine that it's dealt with a feminine touch. And wow, like, because I had a friend who was really into Law and Order SVU, which is Special Victims Unit, which is like oftentimes rape cases. So you see, what's her name? Oh, I forget the actor's name. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Marge, something. You see it handled on TV, and in Mariska Hargitay, that's what it is. Okay, so you see her in these scenes, and it's not like it's not handled well, like she has, it's just different. I think it's just different because you have these women of color, you have these, like, I think it has to do with the perspective, and it really shines through. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up, but I didn't have, like, there's so much more I can talk about. which is the sign of a great TV show, right? And like, yeah, I don't know. I love that Queen Latifah is getting recognized for this show. She said, yeah, in an interview that her, like, I think her grandmother's like 93 or 99 or something, and she loves the show. She loves the Equalizer, and apparently Queen Latifah was like, she would call her sometimes and be like, I'm tired, I don't feel like doing this. And her grandmother would be like, I really, really like that show. So, yeah, it was great. I highly recommend this TV show, and let's move on to film. Movies. Film. All right, so we're back, and I want to talk today about the film On the Count of Three, directed and starring Gerard Carmichael, another Low Power Mode podcast show favorite, and Christopher Abbott. Is that his name? Yeah, I think that's his name. And I know this breaks with our powerful, distinguished Black woman theme, but this film I saw a few weeks ago, and I was like, I was just blown away. Okay, actually, this fits with the theme because just like The Equalizer did a really good job handling a really tough subject, I think On the Count of Three is another great example of that. So, on the count of, okay, and also Gerard Carmichael, we know, has a very dark sense of humor. And so, if there was going to be anyone to tackle this sort of thing, it would be him. But once again, I believe that the intersectionality really shines through. Not only is Gerard Carmichael Black, but Gerard Carmichael is also gay, and it doesn't have anything to do with his role in this film. But I believe that his queerness, which I believe is less of a sexuality and more of a perspective, allowed for certain moments to really shine in this film. Again, the nuances and those little things. So, okay. So here's what the story is. There's two guys, let's say they're like early 30s, and they live in a small town, and it looks like it's winter, and they make a suicide pact because they hate their lives and they don't want to continue. But they have essentially one last day to live before they take each other's lives. Okay, so I know how dark this sounds, but the thing is, we haven't really seen the subject of suicide explored on this level before. Maybe we have, but for me, this was very new. And as someone who has experienced suicidal thoughts, as someone who knows someone who has taken their life, and as someone who knows a lot of other folks who have suicidal thoughts, I feel like this is timely, and this is pressing, and like this is super important, and I felt like it was healing for me. And so that's the reason why I'm talking about this. I'm not trying to like glorify, I take suicide very seriously, and I think that this was so well done that it really deserves your attention. So, all right. It's hard to know where to start without like going super deep, but I'm going to do my best. So, the characters we have Christopher Abbott, who is white, and who plays like kind of like a bit of like an emo kind of dude. I read two very good articles about the film, and one brought up that he has like these bleached tips in his hair, and he has like an iPod Nano or something super super retro at this point in time. And so there's something that is like holding on to his childhood. And he has struggled with depression from a very young age. And yeah, I'll leave it there for now. And then there's Val, who is black, played by Gerard Carmichael, who is he works at like a, I don't know, mulch and gravel and like construct, like I don't know, this kind of company. And he's pretty miserable, and essentially he gets a phone call that a few days, no, but we don't see this, we hear through the dialogue that a few days before Kevin had tried to, I think he had tried to swallow a bunch of pills and take his life. And so he ends up in the you know, the psych ward. And Val is also like, so the film starts out with Kevin in the psych ward and Val also making an attempt with his belt in the bathroom of his workplace. So really heavy starting out, but there are moments of lightness, like, okay, like Val tries, okay, but then there's this annoying coworker who he has who spots his shoes and can tell that it's him in there. And so he's like, "Is that you, Val?" And Val's like trying to hang himself. And then kind of stops and is like, "Yeah." And it's like, also the music is really good in this film. In this particular moment, they're playing this song, "It's a Great Day to Be Alive." It's like, "It's a great day to be alive," something like this, country song. And so you have this scene where Val is in the stall trying to hang himself, and this white guy is peeing at the urinal and singing "It's a Great Day to Be Alive." For me, I see the comedy in that just with it being what it is. I know that's dark, but it's totally Gerard Carmichael's sense of humor. So, okay, and then what happens is Val quits his job, goes to the psych ward, finds Kevin, starts to smoke a cigarette, so the nurse opens the window, and then breaks him out of the psych ward. So, excuse me. So then they drive beside this strip club that is, you know, it's very dreary and winter and stuff. And then there's this like bright pink wall of the strip club. And Val has two guns. And so he's like, okay, you're like, I want to die. You want to die. Let's do it. So they're right there, right in the beginning of the film, holding each other at gunpoint. And they're like, okay, on the count of 3. So I think actually this is how the movie starts, and then it jumps to a few hours before. So yeah, so Val is ready. Val is all juiced up. But because Kevin has he was really disappointed that it didn't work at the psych, and then at the psych ward he was so mad, he was so angry to be there. So he's so relieved that he's out of the psych ward that he's like, stops Val right in the thick of things and is like, you know what? I want one more day. And it's really funny because Val's like, I was in the zone, man. Like, holy shit. Like, you can't just, okay. But interestingly enough, it's Kevin, who's been depressed his whole life and had just attempted to take his life, who wants more time. But it's kind of, it sets it up for this like day where they can do whatever they want with no repercussions, because they're going to be, you know, they're going to be dead by the end of it. And so they go on a couple missions, let's say. For Kevin, it is wanting to, I should say at this point, like, these are definitely spoiler alerts. But even hearing about, like, I feel like I could hear about it and still want to watch the movie. But I hope I'm not. But I don't know. Even maybe you just want to hear about it and you don't plan on watching it. So Kevin's, it turns out that we find out that one of Kevin's traumas is that his doctor, his either pediatrician or child psychologist, sexually assaulted him when he was very young. And so he wants to seek revenge on this guy. And so he and Val pull up to the doctor's office. They look so sketchy going up the elevator. It's kind of hilarious. And then in the elevator, Val is like, "Oh, here, tuck your gun into your pants and stuff." And he does it, and he's like, "You look like your sad eyes have purpose," or something like the moments of comedy among the dark actions are so brilliant. I think is it this time or later on in the film when Kevin talks about mass shooters, and he's like, "This is really hypocritical given what I've posted about gun control," and like just really, and then Val is like, "Yeah, you totally fit the profile of the mass," like, I don't know, just kind of making these jokes about, like, is he or isn't he a mass shooter? No, he's not a mass shooter because he's not going to kill more people than just one who he wants to seek revenge on. But it's just very interesting to have like such a frank discussion about guns and stuff, because you're kind of with these characters who you trust don't just shoot people willy-nilly, but here they are with guns about to kill somebody. So the hypocrisy, the gray area, it's brilliant. So they go into the doctor's office and they ask to see this doctor, and it again, the receptionist leaves. So there's these moments, brilliant moments, where they're going back and forth, and there's a tender moment when Kevin's like, "You know, when you tried to help me, like when I was having a bad day, and we'd just like, you try to get me to forget about it. Thank you for that." You know, like right in this like moment of tension. So the receptionist comes back, and apparently the doctor isn't in, and so he's gonna be back later on. So they're like, "Okay, we're gonna come back," and she's like, "Do you want a dum dum?" And so they're like sucking on lollipops, going down the elevator. Then they go on like a mission on Val's point of, or like in for his life. He had an abusive father, and his father stole money from him when he was really young, or not really young, but like 22 or something. And so he wants to go back and get this money, or like, you know, he wants to go back and get this money from his dad. So I'm not going to tell the details of that part, but it's, once again, actually that part is less comical and more like you just see the self-destruction. And I want to zoom out at this point and say the central themes in this film, one of them is absolutely men's mental health, which I think we do not give enough attention to. I think I could really go on a tangent with that one, but the sensitivities in this film, again, we're not just looking at the action, where we're really like getting into the emotion and getting into the nuances and the tenderness and stuff like this between these characters. So there's love, there's so much love, and there's also so much hurt that they don't know what to do with. And it's also interesting because they're very different. Like, Kevin has struggled with depression his whole entire life. He makes this point. He's tried with doctors. He's tried so many medications and therapies and things, and nothing has helped him. Whereas with Val's kind of just in a bad spot. He hates his job. He doesn't know what to do about his girlfriend, and he has this trauma from his parents. And so it's, I don't know, like it kind of puts things into perspective, but also doesn't take away from Val's pain and the fact that they both feel this. One of my favorite parts in the film is, so during their last day romp, there's a point where I guess they used to work at this motorbike shop, or like course, or I don't know. And so Kevin wants to go there. Val does not want to go. And Lavelle Crawford, a comedian who I remember from when I was in college, I remember discovering Lavelle Crawford. He's great in this film. He's very funny. And so, yeah, he runs the shop. He rents the boys the bikes, and then they get out on the course. Inevitably, Val hurts himself, falls off the bike and hurts himself. And so they have to go and take care of it. And so they go to like a convenience store or whatever. And Val's really hurt, and you can tell that he's really hurt. And Kevin is, trying to help his friend. So he goes in there, and there's this asshole cashier who is sitting there counting the register or something. And so Kevin is asking for simple things and being polite and kind, and this guy's being really, really rude. And there was a time earlier in the film where his old bully saw him and kind of continued to verbally bully him. And so he snaps in this very sweet way where there's no real malintention. But he's sick of being ignored. So he goes to the car, grabs the gun, and waves the gun in this guy's face, and then points it at him and is like, "Give me all the gauze you got." And it's so funny. It's so cute because he's holding this guy at gunpoint. Finally, the guy's taking him seriously. And all he wants, they have like Advil. They have like a couple of bottles of Advil and like, just painkillers and some gauze. And he's like, "What else do you want, man?" And he's like, "Pack of blues and maybe some Nutter Butters," like that becomes like this funny little holdup. But then Kevin asks him, "How much?" as he's holding the gun to this guy's face. And the guy's like, "What?" And because the guy thinks that he wants money. He doesn't. He just wants this Tylenol. And so, he says, he asks how much. The guy says whatever. He gives him, I don't know, he gives him some money, puts some bills down, and says, he says, "When a customer is talking to you, you listen, bro. It hurts to be ignored." And then walks out of the convenience store. And I thought, man, this is so awesome because this is so relatable. Like, oftentimes service people are between you and what you need. And sometimes those service people will help you because that's what they're being paid for. And sometimes they won't. And sometimes they're having a bad day and they don't give a fuck about what your needs are. And when that is the case, and when you really are in need, then it becomes really, really destructive because what are you supposed to do? You don't have any power in the situation. You don't have any agency. So for him to use a gun in order to not rob the convenience store and get a lot of money, not to kill anybody, but to get some medicine for his friend, it's like, wow, you really see the power, like you really see how power works, and also these sort of power struggles among cis men. And it's really sweet as well because like Kevin, like when they go to a shooting range at some point, and Kevin is just so enthralled by the power of the gun. Like he's really like, wow, damn, like, and he says something like, with all the weapons America has, it's amazing why people aren't like more happy or having more fun or something like that. And so he doesn't hit any shots on the target, but he understands the power. He gets it, and he's very aware. He's got this like consciousness of being like politically correct and also being human. And it's really beautiful to see. The actor Christopher Abbott does an incredible job. Gerard Carmichael holds it down as well. But really, you have to buy into everything about Kevin. And Christopher Abbott gives you everything you need to buy into this character. It's beautiful. Yeah, this is it's just, I don't want to keep going with scenarios and things because I don't want to give too much away. But damn, I was so impressed. You know, this is my second watch of On the Count of Three. I would watch it again anytime. Before we watched it, I watched it with my mom, and she also wanted to see it twice. Before we watched it, we were like, oh, let's not watch it before bed. You know, it might be. But then when we did watch it, we were like, you know, this isn't, like, you can watch this before going to sleep and not be trouble, not like be up because you can't sleep because of the movie. Like, here's the last thing I'll talk about in the film. Kevin throughout the day is mentioning race and being black in America a lot because he cares about his friend and he wants to kind of understand more about that. It's kind of messy the way he goes at it. But throughout the film, he's like, you know, like referring to Val's hardship growing up black in America, or, you know, asking in a drunken moment, like how many times he's been called the N-word, but he uses the actual N-word. And then later on, he apologizes for using it and says how hard it is to talk about race in a very tension-filled moment. So again, the comedy and the tragedy are hugging each other in this film. And, I can't tell you the last detail without giving it away. But essentially, you see, okay, there's a reason why we see this particular sensitivity of Kevin's towards Val's race and how race in America works because of the way that the film ends. Okay, I hope that's not giving too much away. But I can't recommend this enough. I think, once again, if I had teenagers, I would want them to see this because I was a teenager when I lost a friend to suicide, and I think that it's so common to have suicidal thoughts these days in the information age where we're flooded with way too much at all times. And yeah, and I think also, like, you know, normally I'm not super into like cis dude stuff, but I think this is art that's super important. I commend Gerard Carmichael for making this film. He directed it because he couldn't find a director because of the subject matter. So I just, you know, I'm flowers to Gerard Carmichael all day. This is a feat. And even in reading reviews, like, you get things from like, let's say the film scores out of 100 out of the reviews that I've read and my own personal ranking, not my own personal ranking, the internet's ranking. It probably scores, you know, between 75 and like 90. But that's incredible for a film that tackles this subject matter. So, and I don't know, again, that I've seen a film about men's mental health or suicide done in this way. So hats off to Gerard Carmichael. Definitely check it out. Christopher Abbott. I'm gonna go watch like other shit that he's in because damn, this dude can act. and brought all the nuances that were needed in this film. And that's gonna wrap it up for film. Hey, listen, sometimes you gotta check in with yourself.
Check in with yourself.
Okay, so to wrap it up, in summation, I am excited because I have my, what do they call it, exploratory surgery tomorrow. And it's like really quick surgery, 15 minutes, going in through my belly button and checking out my situation. So I'm super fucking pumped. Normally I fucking hate the hospital and everything having to do with, scary needly things. But I, at this point, figure what could be worse than the gnawing, consistent pain that I'm experiencing every day. So I'm pumped. I honestly am. I'll let you know how it goes. I'm sure it'll be fine. I really like my doctor. He seems really like he's got it under control. And like he goes on hikes and stuff. I don't know. He seems balanced as a person, which I don't know why that comforts me, but it does. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm just so pumped to get answers and make progress. It was like I moved back from Berlin 1 year ago, spent 6 months trying to get into the healthcare system, and got in, slowly had, the ultrasound, slowly had the appointment. Then I had to go back to Berlin. Well, that was great, to tour and everything and be in one of my homes and all of that stuff. And then coming back here, and then it's like, oh, the surgery. I would love to get both of these, because I'm sure I'll have another surgery after this one. So I would love to have them both done before the end of the year and go into 2023 as a new me. So that's what I'm hoping for. I hope everybody else is in good health, staying corona and monkeypox free, and still being safe, even though even though it feels like things are more under control. It's let's just be careful. Yeah. Sending you love. Until next time. Ciao.
I've been in low power mode. In low power mode. Been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear. I've been in low. I've been in low power mode all year. Think it's time to switch it up to high gear.